Hey everybody, Dr. Oliver here for backintelligence.com. Today we're going to talk about tight hips. I see this as a big problem with people that come to my office, especially if they have low back pain. I always look at their hips first just to see what's going on. Tight hips and restricted motion in your hips leads to stress in people's low backs. Your hip joint should move a lot. Ball and socket joint, you should have a lot of mobility in there. Most people, especially people that sit all day long, tend to be really restricted on their hips. So if we can free those up, we generally tend to see people with less pain in their low back. If you haven't done so yet, click the link below, subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get more informational videos and you get more information about other topics. So like I said, I tend to see in patients in my office, very often their hips are really tight when they have low back pain. The reason for that is, again, your hips should move a lot. Your hips should be very mobile. It's a ball and socket joint. If your hips do not move a lot, people tend to make up for that in their lower back and their spine. So then they start to move too much in their back, and then that causes stress to their back. So if we can free up the hip joint, get the hip moving better, they don't have to do that, thereby reducing their back pain. So freeing up the hips is a really good way to address a lot of people's back pain. So we're going to deal with a few main ways to do it. The first two are going to be dealing with self-massage or foam rolling the area. We're going to work on your piriformis, some of the rotators of your hip, and then your TFL. So freeing them up with self-massage is a great way to reduce tone and increase mobility. Then we're going to go over a couple basic mobility drills. We're going to go over the M stretch, which is really good at hip rotation, and then the frog stretch, which I think was one of the better ones overall, to really get your hips moving. And lastly, we're going to go over the hip flexor. Your hip flexor, big powerful muscle on the front of your body, attaches your spine to your hip. Most people it's too tight, most people it's overactive, so we're going to talk about how you can stretch that and hopefully, again, get your hips just moving better. All right, so let's talk about some of that soft tissue work. We're going to work on the piriformis, a muscle deep inside your butt. There's other rotators of the hip as well you're going to be hitting, but that's the main one that most people know about and most people find to be very tight. So you're just going to sit on your foam roller. You cross one leg over the other. The leg that's crossed over is the side you're working on. It's generally best to kind of lean over into your butt more. You're going to probably feel more tenderness. And then just look around. Look for those tender areas and just roll on them. You're just going to roll looking for those tender areas, and you're going to spend about a minute. Again, you can constantly be moving back and forth looking because there's multiple muscles in the area that we're rolling out. And anything that's really tender, we want to kind of work on a little bit, see if we can get some self-massage and reduce the tone. This should ultimately start to feel better after doing it several times, and you should start to find less of those really hot, tender spots in there. So you're going to pick that side, you're going to roll it out, and you can do the other side as well. Again, if you want, you can lift the arm up and kind of roll over to your side more. So you're really targeting the side of that hip right into your butt there. You really want to stay off the really bony parts. If you get over to the hip, the ball right there, you don't really want to put too much pressure on that. You would know because it would hurt, it would feel very abnormal, but you're just looking, stay in the meat, just to roll around in the muscles. So the next muscle we're going to do a little self-massage on is the TFL. It's a little muscle that sits on top of the greater trochanter there, so you're going to feel that knobby portion that's on the side of your hip there. That just above that, you're going to find there's some soft spots, some tender spots. What you're going to do is you're going to cross one leg over the other leg if you can, and then just start to roll. Again, you're going to stay above that really bony, knobby point right there. There's a little ball. You don't really want to be on that too much. You're kind of roll around looking. You may be hitting your glute minimus, which will be a tight muscle for some people, but we're really just targeting that TFL, really just kind of rolling through the front there. And when you find it, you'll know because you'll be like, oh, there it is, nice and tender. So you kind of roll from the side, a little bit into the front, and just roll it out. Again, we're going to spend about a minute rolling on these areas. It's generally best to be kind of down if you can, so you're not stressing your back at all. But again, look for those areas, look for those tight spots, roll it out for about a minute, do both sides. So as you're rolling, you're going from the side. Remember, we did the piriformis on the back. Now you're kind of rolling over through the side. You might hit your glute minimus, and then you're kind of roll to the front a bit, kind of on the front side of that hip there, up and down. You're going to find it more in the front there. So we're going to work on some of that hip rotation. So we're going to add some mobility drills right now. So we're going to work on the M stretch first. So when you're lay down, you're going to put your feet wider than your knees, so they call it the letter M as in Mary. And then you're just going to rotate one leg in at a time. The other one kind of gets out of the way slightly, and then you come back and you rotate in. You'll a lot of times feel some stretch going along the side here. You may feel a little pinching in the front and the groin. Just don't push through a bunch of pain. but you're just back and forth on these. It's important to try to keep your back down. Try not to be rolling through your back too much. Your back will move a little bit obviously on this, but you don't want to be accentuating this. So you're really trying to target this hip right here, trying to work on the rotation. You can do 10 to 15 of these at a time. Generally this one feels pretty good to most people that have tight hips. You may find you're only getting to here right now, that's fine. It's going to take you a while to really get into that internal rotation and really move that hip more. So the next stretch or mobility drill we're going to work on is that frog stretch. There's multiple ways that people do these types of stretches. This is my personal favorite. Again, we don't want a lot of pain with this at all. It's really not supposed to hurt. It should just feel a stretch. So what you're going to do is you're going to get down on your knees and you're going to go as wide as you feel possible with your knees. You want to be comfortable with this. If you feel pain just being on your knees because the surface is too hard, you could put a towel or a pillow or something under there to take the pressure off because you're not trying to cause pain into your knees. So you're going to go on your knees nice and wide, and then you're going to go to your forearms as well. From this position, we're going to bring our pelvis forward towards the ground, trying to get as close as we can. And then we're going to sit back, and then we'll repeat. So we're just going back and forth. We're really working on this forward motion here. This is going to be the hard thing for most people. Most people aren't going to get to the ground like this. Most people are going to get stuck up here. It's important as you come forward, if you run out of room, that you don't make it up in your low back like that. You really want to keep your abs tight, your core tight, and push through that range, kind of drive your pelvis forward and come back. Generally, I have people do this about 10 times and then come to the middle. This is where you get a little added stretch to it. You're going to lift up both feet, keeping your back neutral, right? We're not diving down. We're keeping our back nice and straight and square, tight abs. And then you're going to work on rotation of your legs. Keeping a nice tight core, and we're just rotating left and right. We're trying not to, again, dump through our back and move through our back a ton. We're keeping our abs tight and our core tight. We're just trying to get that foot to the ground, just like that. So we generally do about 10 of those. So we did 10 forward and back, stretch out the front of that hip. If it feels good, you can hang out in that bottom position for 20, 30 seconds. Then you go back to the middle point, and you just do those windshield wipers back and forth. Again, about 10 to 15 of those. So we're going to work on that hip flexor. Remember, big muscle coming off your hip attaches to your spine. We're going to work on stretching it. So you see a lot of people do the half kneeling kind of runner stretch where they really crank forward into their hip. They think they're stretching their hip flexor, but in reality, they're just putting a ton of stress through the front of their hip joint. Not really the best way to do it. So you want to come back up. You want your back leg, about straight up and down. Then you're going to take your pelvis and you're going to tuck your pelvis backwards. So when you do that, your back goes from a curve to flat. Just doing that should make the front of this thigh a little bit tight. If you squeeze your butt on that side, it will turn it on and it'll make it a deeper stretch. So squeeze your butt, tuck that pelvis, then you can move forward a little bit. You don't have to move forward much. You'll really feel it set into the front of this hip. Some people, I just have them hang out here. It's a good 20, 30 seconds. If you feel comfortable with it, you can add that arm up in the air, reaching up, and then leaning backwards, slightly opening up. So the way to think about it is if you're going to throw a ball, that manner. So you're going to just reach up to the sky, slightly back. Now you may feel the stretch kind of creep up into here a little bit, and you're just targeting that. If it hits your low back, it's too aggressive, stop, put the arm down. You'll probably find the back pain goes away. 20, 30 seconds on these stretches, do both sides, and you could do this a couple times a day if you needed to. You're really just working on that. So the key to this one again is tucking that pelvis, flattening that back, squeezing the butt. You should feel the front. If you're doing it right, you're feeling it right here.
All right, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure you like it, as well as subscribe to this YouTube channel for more videos just like this. Also, research shows that you need to strengthen your core if you want to alleviate some of that low back pain. And not only that, but you need to make sure that the exercises that you perform really target those deep core muscles, and you need to make sure those exercises are safe for your spine. Now we have a free PDF that we'd love to send you with some of the most effective and safest core exercises that you can do from your home. So if you'd like to get that PDF, there's going to be a link to it somewhere here on the video or down below in the description. Just go to that page, enter your email, and we'll send you that free PDF right away.